Welcome back, Mastercrafted Gaming fans. Kyle here to talk to you about how excited I am that we're getting ready to do some Deadzone content. So Deadzone is a new venture for me and Jesse for the most part. We've dabbled in it just a little bit, but we realistically want to start exploring it as far as the channel goes. What that means is that we want to start doing some battle reports. We want to start putting some factions together. And essentially what we're looking to do is build up from Deadzone, that basic skirmish level game, maybe a few factions. We'll rise up into the firefight level of making some videos. We want to explore the background content, the lore as much as possible. And we know that there's a lot of really good content out there, but at the same time, we're just excited about this. And ultimately what this channel has always been are just a couple of guys that are really excited to play some games. So why we're doing this is because Mantic is doing a pretty big push this summer. And if you haven't seen the blog posts already, they're getting ready to talk to us about Deadzone Outbreak, which is a summer campaign that they're doing along with a supplement book to the regular core Deadzone 2.0 rules. And what they're calling this is very similar to what we've seen with, like, say for example, the Clash of Kings rules for Kings of War. It'll take a lot of consolidated updates, bring 2 new factions to play, as well as, you know, some new scenarios and things like that. Very similar to what we've seen from the summer focus on Kings of War, and we're shifting to the sci-fi and warpath universe now. So Jesse and I are getting ready to collect quite a bit as far as the factions, and we're starting, I think, primarily with Forge Fathers and Enforcers from the Operation Heracles starter sets. We wanted to take what Mantic offers and be able to pick that up as if we're brand new players and kind of learn the game that way. We want you guys to learn it with us. What that means is that the content that we're going to put out, we may not be as up to date and on edge with some of the other channels that are out there. We're not going to have the prettiest looking terrain at first. We're not going to have the best looking models at first. But ultimately what we want to do is grow with you, the viewer. So what we'd like to do is invite you to check out the content that we come out with in the next few months. This is something I'm actually really excited about. So it's a new flavorful thing. I want to drive to get as much out there as possible, and part of that are these short videos like this where I can come to you, talk to you about what we're looking at doing, and you know, maybe you can put some models together while you listen to what I have to say. I can probably get Jesse in on a few of these. We've got a few different ideas for how we want to film this stuff, and I actually want to run those by you now, because if you're listening and you care, I'd love your feedback. So essentially I've got a handful of ideas on how I want to film battle reports for this game. And for me, that's a big push. I like to do something that's creative and unique. Not to push anybody else out there, but I like video. I like putting video together that's interesting, exciting, and fun to watch. Deadzone in particular poses a challenge to how you would record something. Because the game is played so back and forth with activations, it can be very cumbersome to film. If you watch the battle reports that are out there now, they do it very well by just doing clever cuts back and forth between the players, and you can kind of tell what's going on, you know, pretty clearly based on how those cuts happen. Well, my initial thought one, for what I want to do as far as a battle report goes, is I'm interested in filming with 3 different camera angles. I can edit the different, you know, video pieces together to make it come out and make the most sense, but one camera angle being directly top down above the battlefield. I'll have it fixed in position. I'll put up a boom mic so that you can hear us at all times, and that's probably where most of the audio will come from. This way you can see the different cubes and activations as they happen and get the best view of the battlefield from that point. Second camera would be a static camera, again, just on the dice. The dice would be in a tray that you see most often for Deadzone games. We'll find a way to differentiate like most people do with color, white versus colored dice. Jesse's got a couple of different, you know, dice trays. I've got one fixed dice tray. That way you can see the rolls at any given time, and again, I'll edit it so that you can see the rolls. They'll pop up and you can tell what's going on. If you've watched our one and only Deadzone battle report that's on the channel, you know that I did probably a little bit too much with an interface and things going back and forth, and I really did like a lot of ideas that I had there. I showed the model activation down in the corner, I showed the command dice and the different victory points as the game went on, And I did like that. Those are elements that I might keep, but maybe without the whole user interface and all that stuff going on. I can pop that stuff up kind of like a scoreboard during a sporting game, those sort of things, without taking up too much space just for flashy sci-fi looking interface things. Third camera in that scenario would just be, again, a static tripod camera on us and in the space that we're playing, just because, you know us, Jesse and I like to goof off, and we want to goof off on camera. So that would be all three of those different camera angles showing up at any given time. I can cut between the two of them. All three would record simultaneously, put the video back together in post. The problem with that is I need a third camera. I got two, don't have three. That's not too big of an issue, because something like the dice, I can get a fairly cheap camera to show just the dice. I could even use a phone or something like that, so it's not a huge problem. The second idea for a battle report and how we want to film is probably not one that would be our primary method, but I still really like the idea of this. Because Deadzone is so cinematic, you can get some amazing camera angles and shots and things like that. I thought about us filming a purely cinematic report. And I'm talking, we would do straight up voiceovers for the different models and what they're going through in those moments. I would like to do some editing as far as put things behind a green screen to make it look like they're in a actual environment instead of just my basement. Sound effects, special effects, in what the video would follow is not just a narrative of this guy shot this guy, they're dead, but we would actually play a game, record everything as if it was being played out, and then present it as if it's almost like a 30-minute, TV show footage of how that battle actually played out. So you would lose the Kyle and Jesse goofiness, but you would get probably a pretty looking thing. And if I do those, it might be one of those 6 months, something like that, where we sprinkle in the other battle reports in between. So give me some ideas if you have some thoughts on what we could do to film instead, or if a certain way, something that you want to see. If you're a current Deadzone fan watching battle reports, what do you like about the ones that you see out there? What do you wish people would do differently? I'm not really as restricted on what I can do, so if you have an idea, I will try my damnedest to make it happen. That's pretty much all I can say. So if you're a Kings of War player and you're watching this video, what I would encourage you to do, if you haven't played Deadzone, now may be the best time in the history of the game to check it out. We're past the Kickstarter stage, we're past the initial fan base stage, but now we're at the place in the game where we can bring in some new players. All of the loose ends with the rules committee that they've dealt with over the years have been cleaned up. It's a very clean game, and now with this new campaign that's coming out very soon this week, we're going to be seeing a very streamlined book for this game to be played at. So what I would encourage is that if you have looked at Deadzone, if you're just a fan of Mantic games in general, because these guys make amazing games, this is the time to say, hey, I'm going to consider playing Deadzone. And even if you're on the fence about it, I want you to check out our battle reports and consider playing it, because I believe in this game tremendously. Not only are we going to take Deadzone and take the next step to, grow up to Firefight, we may even go to Warpath after that. Because these games are so good and because they're so exciting for us to engage in, make content for, we're really looking forward to this change of pace. It's not that we're tired of Kings of War, but there's something right now to be excited about, and it's like in a completely different game. Very inexpensive to get into, needing only a handful of models for a faction, and going from there. One of the best things about the Warpath universe, in my opinion, is it is not 40K. You cannot come and look at this as a competition between 40K and Deadzone or Warpath. This is something that is played completely differently, has completely different flavor, and you can look at the universe through the eyes of the factions, as far as I'm concerned. So whatever you're drawn to through the factions, that's a pretty good place to start as far as where you want to collect models. With the two new factions, the Nameless and, oh, I can't think of the other ones. They're Mason Labs, I believe, Maison Labs, yeah. With those two new factions coming in, they're introducing some more variety. It's a really good time to check it out. You've got the flavor of the classic races with Asterians and Dwarves, or you know, Orcs and Marauders. Like, all that stuff is there. But each of them has motives that they go between the other races for. That's where the real flavor of the fluff of this game is. So what they do, how they do it, and why they do it are very interesting things to consider. There's no blatant, you know, good versus evil as far as I'm concerned. As a new player to this universe, there are factions that have very evil intentions or very self-serving intentions, but there's definitely no massive overlord, spiky, evil things controlling the universe. The Plague is terrifying, downright terrifying, on what's happening and how humanity has tapped into something that they just should not have, and how each of these factions kind of works between alliances and agreements with each other and taking a leg up on one another, and the different types of, you could assume, espionage happening. It's a very open environment and world for people to get into it. So I encourage you, check it out. Pick up the Warpath source book if you want to see some amazing artwork and really get into this. I think Mantic has better artwork for their science fiction universe than they do in Kings of War. They definitely have more content. Just exploring the weapon types, what they do, the different fluff of that, that's what makes science fiction fun to me. When you get to hear about the different ways that a weapon strips molecules off of somebody when they kill them. That's fantastic. Not only do you have the weapons, you have the universe, you have the I forget what it's called, but it's a warp core or something that was designed. Lots of history and background and how the different sphere expansions have happened for the corporation and GCPS. So lots of background to pick up. I encourage you to read that, pick it up. Great book to pick up. The new supplement that's coming out, also a must-have. The campaign's not happening until late summer, fall, so you've got time to get these things, get into it, read it, build up a force, paint up a force, think about what you're doing. Really, really easy thing to do. Really easy thing to do. And if we don't convince you with the content that we put out, you know, in the coming weeks, just enjoy it. Take a look at what we're doing and have fun through us. That's fine too. That's what I would want anyway. So we're gonna have a blast with it. Check it out. Continue to come back. I'm gonna do some videos similar to this that go into some of the fluff and the individual reasons that you might like the different factions, because I think it's important. If you're a new player and you're looking at this and you say, hey, I can kind of tell what these guys do, but I don't really know, I want you to be able to come to my video and say, hey, at time marker, you know, 3 minutes, 13 seconds, he talks about Asterians and what they're all about. Let me check that out, because they caught my eye. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're going forward with. We are not abandoning Kings of War, so don't think that for 1 second. But we're excited about this right now. So let's enjoy this for what it is, and I'm sure we'll get some Kings of War games in the meantime, but while Mantic's pushing this, then so are we, because it's easy to get behind something that they're excited about, because I'm excited too. I'm kind of a little kid about it. So yeah, check it out, and come back, let us know what kind of battle reports you'd like to see or how you'd like to see it filmed, and I would love to put it together. Thanks, guys.